Welcome to another Fire Emblem Heroes video here on Resume Game. Today we're just going to be doing a quick video, something very basic that I think that a lot of people read a lot about or know a little bit about, but not necessarily have a practical understanding of how it works. And I'm talking about building a character, maxing their set out to be a specific role on your team. Some people would say that this is, how to make a kit for a certain hero or how to build a hero, but what we're going to be looking at today is just one specific hero for this, and it's going to be Legendary Ike. Now, Legendary Ike is a hero that most likely, if you guys have been playing this game for a while, you most likely have him. He was given away as a free unit, and he is, without a doubt, in my opinion, one of the strongest heroes in the game right now. Especially as a both offensive and defensive weapon for your team. Now, what we're going to be looking at today specifically is how do we equip skills to Ike that really balance out and take best benefit from his skill points that he has at max level. So you see here, I have Legendary Ike at level 40. He's not a 40 plus at all, so I haven't absorbed another 5-star Legendary Ike into him. So this is just the most basic level 40 Ike that we can get in the game. And what this is going to be a build that focuses on making Ike both a defensive or enemy phase threat and an offensive or player phase threat. Now, what that means is, when I'm talking about enemy phase, is Ike can stay in danger of being hit by an enemy and take their hit and either tank that hit or retaliate and punish someone deeply for attacking him. And then obviously it's very straightforward. What a player phase threat is just a ridiculously offensive hero that's really going to be really oppressive when you face them off against heroes. So getting into things here, first things first, his main weapon, Ragnell, that's pretty standard for most of his builds. The reason that we choose this one is for this build rather than any other weapon is it gives him the ability to counterattack regardless of foe's range. That's going to be very important. The ability to counterattack both bow wielders and tome wielders is going to make him able to be even that much stronger on both phases. So we're going to have his weapon as Ragnell. Now, his assist skill is going to be reposition. Now, this skill can be different depending on what team comp you guys are running, but in my personal opinion, I think reposition is the strongest assist skill in the game next to dancers and their dance ability, just simply because it allows you to pull your allies that you have in danger in combat after they attack out of danger and use that hero that's repositioning them as either a defensive shield, or even if you have a team of 4 reposition heroes, you can really go into danger, attack, and then retreat. So reposition is going to be what we're going to be using for him. And now next is his ultimate ability, and that is going to be Radiant Ether. Now, the reason that we're using Radiant Ether here is because Radiant Ether is going to be a very, very useful skill for Ike. Now, Ike is a very, very strong character. You see he's got this 52 attack right here. That's very, very good. But even though he is what we're considering him in this build, a defensive tank, he has a 35 defense. Now, that's not necessarily a terrible defense, but it's just not overly high. And you can see his res is just about pretty bad as well. His defense is what he's going to be using as a defensive or enemy phase tank in this build rather than his res, because his res is just not good and it's not what we're going to be wanting to use here. So what Radiant Ether does is it says during combat treats foes defense/res as if reduced by 50%. Now that's going to be really, really good for that 52 attack that he's got right there. And then when he uses this trigger, it's going to restore HP equal to 50% of the damage dealt. Now, with Ike's attack being at 52 and him being able to punch through some of these stronger enemies, he's going to be able to regain a good chunk of health every time. And that's going to really allow him to absorb more of those hits if you're letting him take some attacks on enemy phase. So that's why we're using Radiant Ether here. Now, let's get into his A, B, and C slot skills. So first, we've got Warding Breath. Warding Breath is what we're going to use here rather than Steady Breath, in my opinion, just because he has a very low res as it is. We're really going to be wanting to boost that up a little bit. Now, I've seen some builds that say Steady Breath is going to be what you want to use here because of his defense. Now, I understand where they're coming from with that, but Warding Breath, in my opinion, has been really good for those tome wielders that are going to be able to counterattack us, especially with the current meta that there is in the arena. I think that Warding Breath benefits me a lot more than the Steady Breath does. Now, I'm not saying that you can't use Steady Breath. I think it would just make him so much better, but for me personally, in the Ike that I run in most of my videos here, I use Warding Breath for that. So Warding Breath says that if foe initiates combat, it grants Ike res +4 during combat, grants special cooldown charge +1 per attack. So that's going to help us get that Radiant Ether proc very, very quickly here. So next, we're going to talk about probably, in my opinion, the most important skill for Ike here in this build, and that's going to be Quick Repoussé 3, or Riposte 3. I've heard it pronounced both different ways. So basically, what this skill says is that if a unit's HP is greater than or equal to 70% and foe initiates combat, unit makes a guaranteed follow-up attack. Now, what does that mean? In Fire Emblem Heroes, this speed skill is very important for us because what it even says here on the screen for us is that a unit will attack twice if its speed is at least 5 more than the foe's speed. Now, Ike's speed is decent, but with the number of very high speed stat heroes we have in the current meta, it's going to be very difficult for Ike to be up there and have 2 attacks against most of these heroes. So what Quick Repoussé allows us to do is that when a foe is initiating combat against us, we're going to be attacking twice. We're going to be retaliating twice. And what that really is doing for us is that because base Ike without Quick Repoussé doesn't have enough speed to double other units consistently, this B slot skill is going to cover our butt on that one. So that's why we're using that there. And it's what you're going to see is it's also going to, when you're using Ike as a defensive phase or enemy phase hero, it's going to allow us to get that Radiant Ether proc much, much faster because of those 2, that double counterattack right there. And it's going to be a very, very useful way for him to heal up, especially if he's getting hit by, once again, one of his biggest threats, mages. Now, third, here we have for his C skill, Defense Tactic 3, and what that says is that at the start of the turn, it grants defense +6 to allies within 2 spaces for 1 turn, granted only if number of that ally's movement type on current team is less than or equal to 2. Now, Defense Tactic 3 is going to be a great skill for use because it's in Ike's base set, so there's not a lot of expense coming to needing to skill inherit that from another person. You can use just about any C skill here that you want if you're trying to build a certain team comp, but I think that in my opinion, for the way that I use Ike and the teams I use him on, this has worked really well because giving your friends +6 is always a great thing to have. And now lastly, for his S slot skill here, we've got Close Defense. Now, I have Close Defense 1 on him, but that's just simply because I haven't gotten around to ranking it up in the Forge. You most likely are going to eventually want to get this to Close Defense 3, but Close Defense 1 is working pretty well, and what that says is that If a foe initiates combat and uses a sword, lance, axe, or dragonstone, it grants Ike defense res +2 during combat. And that's just another way for us to boost his defense and his res more, and it's going to give him a good, nice defense against melee foes. He's already got a good way to protect himself against them with that quick Repoussé 3 and the Radiant Ether proc in Ragnell, because that weapon is going to give him a MT of 16. But close defense is a really nice little boost to anybody that's going to be hitting him from melee range, because you see we've got Ragnell protecting us from ranged heroes, and then close defense is going to protect us from melee heroes. So that is my Ike build, and that's how I use him, and it's worked very well for me. He's been really, really good at tanking shuriken or dagger wielders very, very well. He's also been able to stand up in battle with some of the stronger foes because of his ability to counterattack and Radiant Ether proc heal himself. So definitely a really good build for your legendary Ike. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any other builds that you'd like me to show you, or any other builds that you'd like me to do, I can talk about those. Just leave a comment down below the video and leave a like. Let us know what you're enjoying the most about these videos. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching as always, and we will see you next time.